I welcome second speaker, Dr. Ruturaj Patil, and it's my proud privilege to introduce Dr. Ruturaj Patil, and I feel very proud that he is our alumni of our institute. So I am very happy to share that he is our student. So he did his master in veterinary medicine from our institute, that is Postgraduate Institute of Veterinary and Animal Sciences, Akola. Thereafter, he obtained MBA in International Business from Symbiosis Institute of Business Management. And presently, he is working as a global product manager, phytogenic liquids at EW Nutrition, Wisbeck, Lower Saxony, Germany. He has more than 15 years experience in animal health industry, and he has expertise in new market search and product registration in international market. He has been involved in plans for global business expansion and executions of strategies and coordination with research and development and new product development team. He has also involved in international and domestic clinical and field trials reports generation for new product. And he previously worked in many renowned pharmaceutical companies, in national and international companies. He traveled more than 35 countries for business visits and exhibition participation. He published many scientific papers in referred journals and several scientific articles in reputed magazines and newspaper. And he attended many national and international conferences and given a presentation in that particular conferences. He handled responsibility of editor-in-chief for Pashudhan and Pashupalan Varta. So with this introduction, I welcome Dr. Ruturaj Patil, Global Product Manager, Phytogenic Liquids at EW Nutrition, Wisbeck, Lower Saxony, Germany, for presentation on the topic antimicrobials resistance, recent trends in the animal health industry. So I welcome Dr. Ruturaj Patil to start his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I just want to first confirm that you can already see my screen.
Yes.
Thank you. So, good evening all. It is my pleasure to be with you for this webinar. And I'm very much thankful to Dr. Wagmare, Dr. Pazai sir, and other organizing committee members for allowing me to be part of this webinar series. So, as Wagmare sir mentioned already, that I'm an alumni of from Akola Institute, and I'm native of Kolhapur, Maharashtra, presently living in Germany. And I'm first of all, I'm sorry about my video quality because it's now winter time in Germany. The days are very short, and you know these days Germany is under lockdown, and we are working from home office. And when you are working from home office, your first priority is always to get a place away from your family or from the kids, rather than best place for the presentation. So I could get a place, maybe not with a good video, but yeah, I can manage at least to interact with you. So presently, I'm working as a product manager, liquid solutions with EW Nutrition. And my topic for presentation today is antimicrobial resistance, recent trends in animal health industry. So as we all know, it is a topic these days discussed a lot. Certainly, it's now high point for all, at least our veterinary technical fraternity, to look into it. So to begin with, I just would like to show you my outline of the presentation. So I will be showing my journey about, most of the part is already covered by Wagmare sir. Then I will also talk about antibiotics used in animal health, then antimicrobial resistance, AMR, some AMR drivers which are actually involved in AMR spread worldwide. And then we also look into impact of an AMR outbreak. So I have some case studies to present all of you that how AMR outbreak can be devastating. And then there is also I will be showing you some good hopes also how we can mitigate AMR. So to begin with my journey, so I just wanted to show this slide because I have a mix of experience because after my master's, I joined Suguna Foods in India as a breeder manager. I was working with them for 5 years. And during my tenure, I could work with different breeds. And that was a good opportunity for me to work as a production manager in close interaction with the other production team. And from 2010, I moved into animal nutrition industry. And basically it was from international business. So then I also had some tenure with Zydus Animal Health, also in international business. And from last year, March, I joined in EW Nutrition. So I already more than 1.5 years. I'm in Germany now. So total 15 years of experience with 5 years in poultry operations and 10 years in international business. So I believe that I had some personal experience also with today's topic. And that's why I just wanted to mention you about my experience. So coming to the next outline, antibiotics used in animal health. So we all know about antibiotics. 1928, penicillin was invented by Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming was actually, it seems, a bit disorderly in his work, and accidentally he discovered penicillin. So when he was actually back from his holidays, he found that a fungus, Penicillium notatum, had contaminated a culture plate of Staphylococcus aureus, which actually he left open accidentally. And then the fungus had created bacteria-free zones wherever it grown. So then Fleming could isolate Penicillium notatum, and it's proven extremely effective even at very low dose. So this is actually when first antibiotic was started. The next, actually the commercial antibiotic was being launched by Bayer from Germany in 1935. So Prontozil was the product, and it was considered as one of the first commercial success antibiotic against gram-positive bacteria. In 1940, gramicidin to treat mass mastitis outbreak was used, and this was one of the incidents when the antibiotic were used in mass purpose, first time in animal health. And from 1948, Merck has licensed sulfaquinoxylin as a first antibiotic for routine inclusion in poultry feeds against coccidiosis. So this was maybe the first time antibiotics were started used as a growth promoter. So next, I will talk about antibiotics in animal health now. So we know about why antibiotics are being used. Antibiotics have been used in animal husbandry for 2 decades. Two main purposes. First is medical treatment or control of infections from pathogenic bacteria. And the second purpose is to improve animal growth by optimizing the absorption of nutrients through reduction of bacterial growth in intestinal tract. So actually the second purpose of antibiotics is leading their use as an antibiotic growth promoter. And this use of antibiotics was actually being started from late 1950s because there were many researchers published articles for use of antibiotics as growth promoter. So one of the article was like nutritional effects of antibiotics by Thomas Jukes and William Williams. Presently, the global trends in antimicrobial use in food animals is a real eye-opener. So global use of antimicrobials in food animal production is projected to increase by 67% from 63,000 tons in 2010 to 106,000 tons by 2030. So this is according to UN Working Group on Antimicrobial Resistance from 2019 report. So presently, I also have a reference which talks about estimated global average annual consumption of antimicrobials to produce 1 kg of meat. And when we look into that, 148 milligram of antimicrobials are used in chicken. So the second, when it comes to beef, 45 milligram of antimicrobials are used to produce 1 kg of beef. And third, 172 milligram of antimicrobials are used to produce 1 kg of pork. So very clearly, chicken and the pork are using a lot of antibiotics or antimicrobials when it comes to production. So when I'm showing these figures as antimicrobials, please note that these also represent any other compound which can kill microorganisms or inhibit their growth. So this also include antibiotics. Now let us look into AMR. That is our core objective of today's discussion, antimicrobial resistance. And we also, as a technical people, know about how does antibiotic resistance occur. A particular case of antibiotic resistance occurs when antibiotic kill disease-causing bacteria as well as good bacteria, but there will be some bacteria which can still survive and they can learn to cope up with the antibiotic. And the bacteria which survive can spread because there will be literally no competition for them, and they can spread the drug resistance. So the pictorial representation here, so the high number of bacteria when treated with antibiotics, there will be some bacteria which are resistant. So maybe the other bacteria get killed and the resistance bacteria can still survive. So when it comes to the third stage, because there is no literally a competition for the surviving bacteria, they can grow faster and they overtake the infection. And over the period, they can transfer the gene of resistance to other bacteria also. So this is the way actually AMR can spread. So AMR along the food chain, how it can be also spread through food chain. So we know antimicrobials and they are already used in human a lot. Infections been treated many times with similar antibiotics, and over the period, the same antibiotic use can create resistance. And so of course there can be AMR originated directly from human sources, but there can be another source. It can be coming from animals. So antibiotics are also used in food producing animals, and similar resistance can also be developed in the animals, which can be spread first to the people who are directly in contact with the animals. So I have some case studies. I will present you in the next few slides that how the people working in close proximity with the animals can also get AMR. And obviously, when the animals carrying AMR bacteria can get spread through food from animal source to the human bag. And this is the way actually AMR is also transmitting from animal to human. So I have some studies for AMR spread from farm animals. And this is a report from Dr. Professor Suvit from Thailand. And he has done this study from E. coli isolates in pig and layer farms. And he did study against different antimicrobial agents, which are commonly used in animal. So what he did, that he has isolated samples from pig farms, from pigs directly, from the farm workers who are working in the farms, and also some samples from the stagnated water. And he found that resistant bacteria, E. coli bacteria, were already present against these antimicrobials from these sources. And similar recordings been also taken from layer farms, from the layers, birds, farm workers, and overall samples. So a summary of this trial, I can show you here in short, that the pig farms, the sample sources, animal samples showed around 74.80% resistant samples. From animal workers are also 57%. So this is a very, very eye-opening that even the people who are working close proximity in the farms are also can get the AMR spread without even consuming the animal, but just being in direct contact with them. And farm environment also always carry higher amount of AMR or AMR E. coli strains, which are resistant to common antibiotics. And similar observations from layer farms. In fact, layer farms, the animal workers show higher percentage than even animal samples. And this might be because, the different batches got exposed. So when you are working in the farm over the period, you are getting exposed to different batches over the years. And so the animal workers are carrying more number of AMR resistance bacteria than even the animals or the birds itself in the farm. Next, another case study for similar claim that AMR spread from farm animals. And this study is from Netherlands. And there was a sample size from 50 broiler farms. So you can focus over here. Actually, what it's showing that occurrence of the resistance bacteria from different subpopulations like general population, poultry workers, because these samples were collected from broiler farms, and the family members of the poultry workers. And the study was done against 3 different bacteria like methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, colistin-resistant E. coli, and ESBL AMC producing E. coli. But the eye-openers are here, like the picture is already showing, compared to the general population, the presence of resistant bacteria was always higher in poultry workers. So like in this case, E. coli, about 27% of the poultry workers shown already resistant E. coli samples, and even 15% or 14.3% also been found from the family members of the poultry farms. So in conclusion, from this study, what we can say that AMR in poultry causes increased risk of exposure to resistant bacteria for poultry workers and their family living in close proximity to the poultry houses. And my another purpose was to bring this slide for you was we as a being a veterinarian are also the first line of population is exposed to the animals. So it's very obvious that we are also the first level of people who can carry AMR on higher than even any general population. So we as a veterinarian also need to look into very, very critically about AMR spread. So now AMR drivers, how actually AMR is getting spread. So there are might be different reasons. First, starting with human health mismanagement. And this is a very obvious reason because misuse or overuse of antibiotics can be one of the major reasons. Also, poor access to quality medical solutions, travel and migration without even AMR awareness. So the best example is very recent COVID-19 outbreak because it was found in one of the region, Wuhan in China, and now almost it is reached to every country in the world. And we can even expect that this kind of spread of AMR also can happen in the future. So this is the high time now to look into this. Human and animal sanitation, also one of the reasons, like lack of access to clean water, sanitation, and hygiene. Poor disease prevention in control in human and animal farms. There can be also a reason from environmental waste management, which may be from improper management of hospital, pharmaceutical, and farm waste. A recent study also shows that plant and crop antimicrobial misuse or overuse also can spread AMR. There are also some origins from food and feed, antimicrobial misuse and overuse. And last one is also coming from direct animals, as we discussed. Animal antimicrobial misuse or overuse, combined with lack of awareness, movement of animals, poor access to the medical support or even vaccination. So these are the major AMR drivers which can create a spread of AMR across the world. Now we will look into some impact of AMR outbreak and how AMR outbreak can be having a devastating effect. So impact of AMR is maybe also linked with the risk of production with food and feed. It can also has impact on business and trade interaction and will also with the climatic changes. There can be always increase in morbidity and mortality in humans and animals. Economical damage can be also because of loss of productivity and increased healthcare expenditures. So to actually just to prove this, I have some case studies like from China. So I would like to show you some figures from China that the first pie chart shows that China is the world's largest producer of antibiotics. And these reports are based from 2013. China alone produced 90% of the world's antibiotic crude drugs. The rest of the world is producing just 10%, and 90% of the antibiotic crude drugs are produced by China. 70% of the world's antibiotic exports is contributed from China, and only 30% from the rest of the world. When it comes to the antibiotic consumption, China is consuming around 160,000 tons of antibiotics, which is a 50% of the rest of the world. And when it comes to actual antibiotics consumption in China, out of this 160,000, 50% of antibiotics are used in livestock and 50% in human. So these are actually a real eye-opener figures from China. So at present, Chinese government is trying to seek a compromise between use and non-use of antibiotics in food producing animals. The proponents or the supporters for continuous use of antibiotics in food producing animals mainly based their argument on the importance of food supply for national security, misuse of decentralized farms, inadequate enforcement, or overstated effects of antibiotics. But on other side, there are also opponents of high use of antibiotics in China who are claiming about impending crisis for humans, availability of alternatives and negative effects for discriminatory nature of antibiotics, and higher foreign standards also, because China is also a major exporting country in the meat. So they are also showing a good reason why they need to focus into less antibiotic use in animals. So now in practice, actually Chinese government started to have adopting multifaceted approach, which can also include into setting up standards, educating the peoples, and strengthening the monitoring programs. So there is a one case study from China, and what can be the impact of AMR in China if there would be AMR outbreak. And this study was based on 2003 severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS outbreak. And so this case study was presented in 2016. The Chinese authorities based their preparation of this report from data from famous Professor Ling Gunjin, who reported on the consequences of potential AMR outbreak in China through extrapolation of the SARS outbreak. So the direct cost of AMR outbreak was being evaluated based on comparative figures from SARS, which shows that using the rate of change immediately from outbreak of SARS, like decrease in 11% of domestic poultry meat, decrease in 10.2% of poultry exports, increase in 28.2% of poultry imports. So the total impact of this AMR outbreak can be 467 billion yuan. And which is equals to 67 billion US dollars just in first 2 weeks of AMR outbreak. And we know 1 billion US dollar is like 7,500 crore Indian rupees. So it's a huge amount, and which can be just created from first 2 weeks of AMR outbreak. So this cost is also involved from some other impacts coming like tourism, which can virtually complete standstill, bilateral trades, which can be seriously affected with China, foreign direct investment also can be severely affected. So these figures are now real figures which can show that how AMR outbreak can be high impactful. Some more figures now, and these are deaths attributable for AMR every year. And these are now the current figures actually. And what it's showing in my this slide, that if we see worldwide, major common reasons for death, astonishingly, AMR is already contributing 700,000 deaths per year by only AMR. There are many other reasons like cancer, cholera, diabetes, measles, even accidents. But AMR alone is now contributing 700,000 deaths per year, which is impacting around US $100 trillion from combined gross domestic product, with additional of 210 trillion US dollar from secondary effects. So, but the real problem is, if we continue the business as usual now, what we are doing, by 2050, we can expect 10 million deaths per year just by AMR. You can imagine 10 million deaths from AMR by 2050. By 2030, antimicrobial resistance could force up to 24 million people into extreme poverty. And data from 2014 is already indicating that Indonesia, one of country in Southeast Asia Pacific, alone had 130,000 AMR related deaths. So now a big question in front of us is, how many deaths do we need now before to even take AMR as a serious problem? So now, if we now thinking as really AMR as a serious problem, and to counteract the challenge of AMR, or to take a steps to counteract the AMR outbreaks, but we also see or foresee some key challenges in implementing even antibiotic reduction, which is not easy. I completely agree with that. And first hiccup can be awareness and political will. This is coming from lack of awareness and lack of political will to act people which are not connecting with AMR to threats to the food, health, environment, economics. Presently, many countries need a stronger narrative that can engage both policymakers and the general public by linking AMR to the national interest, such as food, health, environment, and economics. Next is finance, or we can also say financial cost. This is mainly from lack of will to provide initial investment to prevent infections and offer a sustainable access to antimicrobials. Public and private sector finance is required to build the systems and support infrastructure to prevent infection in the first instance. Next hiccup can be coordination, and coordination is very much important across countries, industries, private and public sectors. A lack of human, technical, and financial resources combined with complex logistics and ways of working is hampering the coordination. It can also from across those sectors and stakeholder groups. The next challenge could be from monitoring systems, because monitoring of AMR requires very complex system. Few countries, like most of the countries in EU now, like Netherlands, Denmark, Belgium, has set up the monitoring systems. Even fewer now incorporating these into wider health and agriculture systems, but we can say this is not happening across the world. Maybe there are still many countries in Asia, Africa, are lacking this kind of monitoring system of AMR spread. Next challenge could be from data and technical capacity, because there is very little available data on AMR, and obtaining this data itself is a very costly and complex process. So countries need to data on antimicrobial resistance, use and access, but science in this area is very expensive and complex. So many countries lack the technical capacity and know how to analyze such data and develop even to inform actions from this data. So now, yeah, I made this AMR as a bigger problem in front of you, but yes, there are some solutions available, and there are also some good case studies which are showing that yes, it is still possible for us to tackle with AMR. And I will be showing AMR mitigation policies, because it is mainly coming from now consumers, and indeed it's an encouraging momentum, because when it comes from a consumer demand, it obviously pressurizes animal production industry, and there will be increased pressure on even feed supplement or additive manufacturers to look into non-antibiotic additives for animal feed industry. So I will show you one case study from Netherlands, and I am calling this as a ray of hope. And how? Actually, I will explain you. So in first glance, you may find that this slide is very complex, but I will try to simplify for you. First, try to focus only on the columns. And the columns are actually representing the antibiotics sale per year in Netherlands. And what it shows that from 1999 to 2019. So this was a data from almost 20 years coming from one country. And this report is prepared by Maran, and this is already available on the web. You can just Google with Maran report 2020 and you will find this report. So the very interesting facts from this report that actually this study was being done on commensal, that is non-pathogenic E. coli bacteria, which are isolated from Zika of slaughter birds in broilers. And why they've chosen commensal E. coli for resistance check, because they are ideal indicator pathogens to quantify occurrence of AMR in the gut environment, as they can easily exchange AMR genes, and they can also easily be isolated from production animals. So when we are talking about this AMR, now coming back to the antibiotic consumption, we can see from 1999 to 2006, the antibiotic use in Netherlands was continuously getting higher and higher. So the total use of antibiotics was getting continuously higher. And as we know, 2006, there was a ban in EU for AGP use. But in anticipation, veterinarians started prescribing a lot of antibiotics just as a treatment purpose. And even after the ban, the antibiotic consumption in 2007 gone higher. But after that, through lot of legislative pressure, antibiotic use in Netherlands came down drastically, which was 69% drop from 2009 to 2019. So this is about the columns. And now I will explain you about these lines. These lines are actually representing the E. coli resistance against these antimicrobials. And what it shows that if you see very carefully, that the resistance was parallelly going higher with the antibiotic use. And when the antibiotic started use declining, even the resistance of these E. coli against these antibiotics was coming down. So what this study indicating that once bacteria are not being challenged with antibiotics, eventually they will phase out AMR genes and become again susceptible. So this is one example from Netherlands, and there are some other studies from Denmark, Belgium are also available. Now, important to mention that this is a very interesting study. With reduced percentage of resistance, it is also associated with improved response of antibiotic. So actually, when you are using less antibiotic over the period, where actually increasing the efficiency of antibiotics because the AMR is getting lesser and lesser. Now some another trend from US, I would say a positive trend, and this in US during the last decade, consumer demand from broiler industry for antibiotic free chicken is getting higher. Actually, you might be knowing that US has not banned AGP use like EU. In USA, you can still use AGP officially, but now they have under pressure from the consumer point of view that consumers are demanding antibiotic free chicken. And this shift in consumer demand has pushed broiler meat producers to manage broiler farms now with least possible antibiotic use. So this is actually unclassified report. You may not able to find this report from the web because this is we could collect from our industrial contacts and some feedbacks from our salespeople, and I could collect this information from them. So I will first explain you about what it is. So this is a report which talks about different classes of antibiotics percentage being used in broiler feed tonnage by type. So the first is full spectrum. What it mean? That it's a full spectrum use of antibiotics, and obviously it's a legal use of antibiotics from US FDA point of view. The second is non-human antibiotic use, so which is coming from the antibiotics which are exclusive for animals, not for humans, like inophores, bacitracin, avilamycin, bamramycin. So these are exclusive antibiotics which are not human ones. So those are non-human antibiotics use. Third is showing inophores. Actually, this is mainly used as a coccidiostat in broilers feed, but there is no BMD involved or other drugs are being involved in this classification. And the last is NAE. NAE is no antibiotic ever. So no antibiotic ever is the antibiotics are not at all used in these birds right from chick stage to the culling. So this shift we can see now from 2013, there were only 4% of NAE production. And now by 2017, USA is already producing 40% NAE. And this is only and only because of consumer demand. There is no legislative pressure, but this is just a consumer's pressure on the meat producers. Some background from this report actually coming from one of the poultry company report in 2018, which has published that in 2017, 40% of birds reared in USA on NAE, but only 6.5% are marketed as NAE. And there might be some different reasons behind it, why actually meat producers are still not making a claim in the market, why even though they are producing NAE chicken. And obviously, when they are labeling their chicken, they are getting a good benefit. Like we have some figures which shows the breast and whole chicken, which are marketed NAE, is getting average price of $4.82 per pound. And the wings, legs, actually these are the parts from NAE, but they are not being claimed as NAE. And when you just compare conventional chicken, the price sold is $2.47 per pound. So almost 60% premium they are getting on NAE claimed chicken. And the further good signs in USA that the full spectrum use of antibiotics is going further down because recent US FDA industry guidance removed even some antibiotics like virginomycin, which FDA consider as a medically important antibiotic for even in humans. There are some poultry additive companies which are withdrawing poultry claims from tylosin in the feed formulation. So already they are not claiming their products for poultry use. So this is again a good sign that full spectrum use of antibiotics may also go down in USA in coming time. So with still a limited part of the information available, we can expect this NAE production in USA chicken can go up to 70% in coming time, and there will be also increase for the claim NAE in the market. So now, after seeing this, we can see now actually how we can practice AMR mitigation. And obviously, telling all these things and implementing practically, it's not easy. And we know when we want to deal with AMR mitigation, the first and important thing what we want or we should do is effective use of antibiotics. So the point of an antibiotic reduction program is not only to discourage people from using antibiotics, but on the contrary, we can make sure that antibiotics remains effective. So our communication to the food producing animals industry should be that we are not asking them to reduce antibiotics, but we are asking them to maintain the efficacy of antibiotics for them. Otherwise, it's going to be a problem. And some of the data shows that a one molecule or new molecule invention is going to take 12 years and kind of investment like $1 billion. So it's like more than a cost to putting a man on the moon. And I'm very sure that no medical industry or animal additive industry are going to put a lot of research expense just not to invent on the new antibiotics. So the only way is to live with the current antibiotics we have with us with very effective use. And this can only happen if unnecessary use of antimicrobials is lowered at every touch point. Lowering antimicrobial use can be done by holistic measures like preempt need for antibiotic use. If animals enjoy good gut health, solid growth rates, good feed conversion ratios, then there is no need of antibiotics in animal production. So we need to put some measures which can help us to get the production in better way without even using antibiotics. And for that, there can be many ways out. Like the way forward could be is by providing customized programs. Maybe it can be customized to countries, customized to particular big customers for supporting for animal health and welfare, which is very, very important. Cost-effective measures to prevent antibiotic needs. And this is a very, very challenging, we being as a veterinarian, because when we are dealing with animals, we are not only a health managers, but we are also production managers, because we are always been questioned for return on investment, for the cost. Maybe these are not questions when asked for human, but we need to answer these questions to our customers, because cost is more important in animal health industry. When you have a cost higher of treatment than the cost of animal, obviously they are not going to choose that. They may say, no, I don't want, I can cull the animal itself. So cost-effective measures are very important, and reliable monitoring for threats. So a continuous monitoring system, which can also help to get into more preventive mode rather than a therapeutic approach. So we can put into some measurements in the farm itself that by anticipating issues to come or from the past experience in the flocks, we can manage the management aspects in the farms by good monitoring system. Obviously, everything said and done is easy, but it's not that easy to implement. And for that, I have just brought one example for you to present as a broiler industry now. So if we want to just reduce antibiotic use in broilers, what kind of challenges we may face? First is disease challenge. So reduced use of antibiotics can result in higher occurrence of specific enteritis or dysbacteriosis. It can also cause problem with more secondary bacterial diseases, and obviously livability of the animals may get down. The next challenge would be with the farm management, because you need a lot of skilled workers in the farm, structures, or the farms has to be in state of art with the good biosecurity measures in place. Next, about feed quality. So a critical review of all feed aspects need to be done to support antibiotic-free production, like pellet quality, dietary structures, anti-nutritional factors, hygiene of the feed, to take care of feed even without antibiotics. And then another point from broiler point of view is day-old chick quality. So as we know about insufficient day-old chick quality can hamper both microbiological as well as physiological perspective of the growth. So this may has to start the measure from right from the breeders, the parent stocks of the commercial broilers. So to get into better day-old chick quality, as well as to have a prerequisite for antibiotic-free production to ensure a better growth potential as well as feed conversion ratio in broilers. And if we fail to achieve this, we are always going to impact on the profitability, animal health and welfare. And this has to be always need to consider while implementing ABR or antibiotic reduction program in broilers. So now, just as an example, being a part of now animal nutrition industry, I can say that many companies now coming with different approaches, how we can support our customers to reduce antimicrobial use. And now being as a part of EW Nutrition, I will just try to brief you about how EW Nutrition has an approach. So EW Nutrition vision and mission itself is talking about reducing the impact of antimicrobial resistance through antibiotic reduction by providing a comprehensive animal nutrition solutions. And for that, EW Nutrition is committed to assist the customers to prefer for reduced antibiotic production systems while increasing their competitiveness and profitability. So it is very important, again, as I said, so when we are asking the customers not to use antibiotics, we also need to ensure that their productivity is not getting hampered, their profitability or cost effectiveness is not getting hampered. So in spite of reduction in antibiotics with some other feed additives used, customer are getting the cost benefit more than their investment, they should be happy with that. And this can be implemented with different approaches like services from biosecurity consultancy, farm management advisory, nutritional advice, and feed quality evaluation. So there is actually antibiotic reduction program in broilers, as an example I'm showing you, and it's coming as a package with products and solutions, services and tools, and partnerships. So products, there are in-feed applications, which is in microencapsulated slow release, which help into chronic gut health management. And the microencapsulation also ensures it is a thermostable product. So even if it is processed with pelletization or crumbing, there will not be impact. In-water application provides flexibility and instant use to the challenging conditions when there is a high antimicrobial load is expected, because this in-feed application may not be good enough to control the high load of antimicrobes or microbes in the gut. So in-water application can be used as a flexible and instant solution, which help into fast-acting and prophylactic antimicrobial use. There are some services and tools are attached, like ABF, AMR know-how, like the slides what I presented you in earlier slides, which we help the customer to know how AMR is important point to look into. And so we as a technical team, veterinarians, need to bring into this notice to the actually meat producers. Consultations, technical service can be done from the company personnel itself because of direct presence in almost all high potential markets. And there can be some analytical services connected with local labs. Tools are being placed like biosecurity measures, lesion scoring for the gut health, and value calculators, which is helping the customers to look into a return on investment kind of tools. Partnerships are also very important, like with the universities for validations trials, for institutional and customers also, because this is something very important. Maybe some customers from India would like to see the product to perform in their own farms. They may not believe something happening in Europe or in Germany. They would like to see something in their own farm. So these kind of validation trials can help the customers to get convinced about the product benefits with their own production systems. Research collaboration with the universities, which can also help us to understand closely the customer needs, because obviously the customer need can be varying from country to country, region to region. Partnership with key opinion leaders, some consultants, service providers is also very, very important for effective implementation of antibiotic reduction program. So coming to AMR, ABR program tailored farm needs, actually I'm just showing you how it's been presented by EW Nutrition. So this is an example for broilers, and so in-feed solution is being fed continuously because there is no actually withdrawal period is required. It's not containing any residual effect in the meat, so there is no withdrawal period. And the in-water solution is being used based on the needs. So this is just a kind of representation or a general recommendation, but the in-water solution also can be used from different enteric challenges like loose droppings. Yeah, these are some indications of the enteric challenges we can see with the farms, like loose droppings, undigested feed in feces, necrotic enteritis, foot pad lesions, low pigmentation. Or it can be also expected in high stressful conditions like feed changes or post-vaccination stress. So in-feed solution is helping for better intestinal health, better body weight gain, and feed efficiency. So this is just to help into chronic gut health measurement. And in-water solution is actually working into controlling high microbial load periods, which can be coming after full conditions. So it actually helps into maintaining low morbidity or mortality, low enteric diseases, and it can also helps by reducing therapeutic antibiotic use. So this is a kind of example. Actually, we as a technical people can also support with different customized tools. Yeah, this can be coming anything, but we have to also convince the meat producers now that how AMR is important leading to look into, and there are still possible solutions which are cost effective and which will not may affect the performance and still get good cost benefit to the customer. And maybe something what could happen in USA can also happen in India very soon. So this was my last slide, and thank you. Thank you very much for all of you for patiently listening. I can understand this is already very late now in India, but yeah, you are all very patiently listening. So thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.